Record. Okay, I think I got it started again. I'm going to try to start this session out with going to grade school. I had some fun in grade school, and being an old farm boy, I wanted to say that I went to grade school and barefooted, but I ain't gonna say that because I don't know if I did or not. I doubt that I did. To tell you the truth, I think my family probably bought me some tennis shoes. You got to remember that I'm a Great Depression baby. I was born about 2 or 3 months after the stock market crash of 1929. I was born the first part of January 1930. So my whole life has been spent through the Great Depression days, and nobody had any money in the grade school I went to. I kind of want to say that I might have went up there barefooted a little bit, but I ain't gonna do that because I can't. I really don't remember whether I did or not. I kind of got my doubts that I did. I think my family, my mother and dad might have at least bought me a pair of tennis shoes, but but I didn't have no fancy clothes to wear. I get a big kick. I get a big kick out of watching these Netflix shows where they got these families. But usually when they talk about these kids and things going to school on one of them Netflix things, the father's always some big mogul in some plant, or and he's a big PhD, and his mother is a PhD, and she teaches in some college, one of them fancy colleges, one of them colleges. Well, they got a name for them, but I can't think of what it is. Them elite colleges. But anyway, they always talk about when they get their son ready to go to school, they want to check his shoes and make sure they shine. He's got to have a pleat on his pants. They got to be just pressed and everything. And he's got to have his belt tightened just right, and he got to check his coat, make sure it's clean, and then make sure his hair's combed just right. Good Lord of mercy. I don't remember my mama checking me into the school. I'm sure she did. I wouldn't have known how to get to the darn school if she hadn't took me the first time. But I don't remember. I remember walking to that school, but I gotta believe that probably once she showed me where it was, I figured out. I know nobody took me to school like they do the kids nowadays. You go by a school and you can't hardly get past the darn thing for people dropping their kids off and picking them up. Hell, I walked to the school, but it wasn't that far, and I ain't gonna say I walked no 5 mile to school because I didn't do it. I don't know. It may have been 200 or 300, 400 yards, but it wasn't no 10 miles. I was pretty close to the school, I guess. The Richard Lego is up on 2nd Avenue, there in Dallas, and I walk to it every day. The street that I lived on, Bertrand, it wasn't paved. We didn't have no sidewalks, cement sidewalks or anything. In fact, originally was a dirt street. I remember when I was a little bitty kid, it was dirt. I remember when the gravel trucks come out there and they dumped gravel on that street and made big piles of them, and I took my bicycle. I must have been old enough to ride a bicycle, so I remember riding my bicycle over them piles, and I'd keep it go as far as I can till I couldn't go no further over them piles of gravel. Start out you could only get 1 or 2, but after you'd been there 7, 8, 10 times, you had wore a path in the first few, and then you could get 3 of them. Then you'd go again, and you keep on. Gosh, I got to where I could get 6, 7, 8, or 10 of them. Boy, I remember I'd do that all day long. Because, my dad wouldn't take me out of school. That'd be help on the farm. See, during them Depression days when I got up to be 6, 7 years old, 10, whatever, in that area, I'd go into grade school, but in the afternoons, my dad wanted to talk. I heard him arguing. He wanted to take me out of school, let me help him on the farm because during those war years, the Depression years and things, he couldn't get nobody to work. They was all on welfare. You know, they instead of working, they would. Boy, my daddy. I know everybody loves old Franklin Delano Roosevelt. My dad hated him. Boy, you know, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was the first socialist president we ever had, as far as I know. You know, he started that CCC, with that Civilian Conservation Corps, and then he started WPA, that Works Project Administration, which they paid people to do nothing, you know. But they give Roosevelt credit for taking the country out of the Depression, but I got news for you, that's not true. You know, whether you like it or whether you don't, and I know it's a sad thing to have to say, but Hitler was the reason that the United States come out of the Depression. You know, when he started them wars over there in Europe, you know, along about 1939, 40, 41, in there, when he started invading all them countries and things, then the United States, you know, Great Britain would have went down. He would have won that darn war if he hadn't attacked Russia. He already had, Britain was on her knees, you know, and then we started making war material and sending them to Britain, Great Britain. But I didn't want to talk about that. That's a whole new story. I wanted to talk about when I went to grade school. You know, I'll talk about that World War II and old Franklin D. You know, him and his fireside chats later on. But right now, I want to talk about me going to grade school. And I'm gonna say that I wore shoes. I'm gonna say my parents probably broke down and bought me a pair of tennis shoes at least. You know, but I didn't have no. I wore them, what they call Unionals. At least that's what we call them. That's them kind with the two straps. You know, it's a one-piece thing with two straps. I'd have a little old shirt on, and then I'd have them Unionals on. That's what I went to school in. And I don't remember whether they had patches in them or not. I got to tell you about my mom. But I won't talk about that right now. Let me stay with this school business. I got so doggone much to talk. I don't know what to talk about next. But I want to talk about that school business because it's something that I just think you get a laugh out of it. It ain't gonna be nothing like what you see on these Netflix and all that PhDs writing all them books. It's gonna be real live stuff from an old country boy. You know? Anyway, I went to the school, and I remember Miss Poteet. That was my first English teacher. She had the big habit of taking a thumb and a forefinger and putting it on both sides of her mouth. And I remember, I don't know how come I remember that. I can't remember what she looks like, but I remember that because she always done it. You know, done it several times. She must not have been a very good English teacher because, boy, I mean, tell you, I flunked out English when I got to college, you know. How I made it through high school, I don't know. But let's get back to when I went to grade school. I don't remember a whole lot about grade school. I remember there was I remember one time, my first thing that I remember about grade school was I walked out of a building. The Richard Lego was a brick building, a two-story brick building with it was facing on 2nd Avenue. And the back of it, in the back of that building, they had a wooden building where if it was rainy, rather than going to the playground when you had a playground on school, rather than going to play, you go into that building. I don't remember what we did in that building, sang or I don't remember, because it wasn't that many rainy days. But I do remember when I get play period. I had a play period, and I remember walking out of the building, and back then they had these water fountain things where it would be a big bricked up thing up about to a couple feet high that have 3 or 4 or 5 of these fountains in them where you could turn that thing and water would shoot up and you could put your mouth over it and get a drink. I walked up to one of them and I was getting me a drink, and while I was getting my drink there, I saw there was two guys that was jumping all over. They were not fighting him, but they was talking to him like he was a piece of crap. The kid had 6 fingers. He had two little fingers, and I sit there and get me a drink. I listening to him, and the kid he was in tears. You know, they making fun of him, telling him he was a freak and all this good stuff. Of course, at that time I was a real Christian, and I thought that was the awfulest thing I'd ever seen. And I walked over to them boys. Of course, there was two of them on one. You know, I walked up to them and I told him what I told him was, I said, I got 6 toes. You dudes want to make something out of it? Of course, I didn't call them dudes. I said something else because my dad had done learnt me every dirty word there was in the English language, you know. But I'm trying to keep this thing clean. Anyway, these two kids, they looked at me and they walked off. Now, there's a reason why they walked off that I'm going to get to later, but for right now, just let me suffice it to say that they knew I would fight them, and they didn't want nothing to do with me, you know. And I don't mean to say that I think that I was tough. It's not that at all. It's just that I had done something about 2 weeks earlier that the whole school knew about, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this particular thing had unintended consequences. This kid that they were jumping all over, that had them 6 fingers, that extra one on each hand, the little extra little finger. When I started walking off, I was going out to play period, and when I started walking off, and I stopped, he run into me, because everywhere I went, boy, he was right behind me, you know. So I had told them 2 kids I had 6 toes, and so he just loved me. You know, he found somebody that, of course, I didn't have 6 toes, but there ain't nobody, I wasn't going to take my shoes off, show them that didn't, you know, they didn't know whether they did or not. But getting back to why those 2 kids didn't jump on me when I got right up in their face, about 2 weeks before that, about 2 weeks before the thing where those I had gotten into an altercation. Well, let me say, the first thing I want to say is that when I'd go to play for it, I never would play volleyball, not volleyball, but soccer, or sometimes I'd be playing not hardball, but softball, that big old ball. There would be teams that would get out there and choose up sides, and they would play baseball, or they'd be playing soccer or something. And I never would play none of it. And the reason I wouldn't is because there were a couple of brothers, and I remember their names. There's Chester and Lester Vineyard. Of course, now I'm probably going to get sued for giving real names, but I don't give a damn. I'm going to be dead here in a few years anyway. You know, I'm in case some of you new people that just happened onto this thing, and you got tickled at listening to this old country boy. You stay here long enough to find out that I'm just one of them old ignorant country boys that come to town riding on the back of a turnip truck. You know? But anyway, I'll get around to tell you, I never would play on them things, mainly because old Lester and Chester, they were a couple of bullies. There was 2 of them. You mean man, I wouldn't play soccer when they were always out there on the field, and they always bullying everybody, you know, because you couldn't fight just one of them, you'd have to fight 2, and we just kids, you know. So I always went over to the acting bars or the swings or something, and I'd play by myself. Well, this kid would follow me around. Oops, this is as long as I'm going. I'll have to spring another one. I'll start up with these two Lester and Chester boys. You know, their names are Lester and Chester Vineyards. I'm gonna stop this one.